In this video, we're going to talk about the 5 ways to build core stability. And you need to incorporate all 5 of these different ways to ensure that the core is developed in a balanced and complete fashion. Yo, what's up? It's Coach E here from Precision Movement, and today I have a little presentation that I call the 5 ways to build core stability. Okay, so core stability is a topic that is often talked about as the way to train the abs, okay, but it's not just the abs that we're focused on that we need to train for core stability, because core stability is a very important factor and concept to keep the lumbar spine healthy and for people who suffer from low back pain. And it's not the only thing that we have to train. We also do need to train mobility of the spine, but especially for people who have low back pain, core stability is the first place to start. Okay, we got to train that spine in neutral. Okay, so there's different elements, and I like to think of it in 5 different categories. Okay, number 1, the anterior aspect of the core. So the anterior aspect of the core is like the rectus abdominis and the oblique muscles. Okay, and this simple exercise, I'm going to show you simple body weight exercise just as examples. We've got the plank. Okay, 1,000,001 variations you can do of the plank, but this main variation is going to train the anterior core. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, we've got to think of the lateral core. Okay, this is more the obliques and the quadratus lumborum, and even getting into the lats. Okay, these muscles all stabilize in the frontal plane. So this is the frontal plane of motion. Okay, this is the sagittal plane of motion, and this is the transverse plane of motion. Training the lateral core trains your body for stability in the frontal plane. So the most basic exercise is a side bridge. Okay, this is one of the big 3 from Dr. Stu McGill for low back pain people. This is going to work right from the shoulders down through the lower leg. Okay, that's the lateral core. Next, we're going around the posterior core. So this is going to focus more on the glutes and the muscles in the lumbar spine. Okay, the most simple exercise to train the posterior core is the hip bridge. Okay, that's it. Glutes, lumbar muscles, extensors. We're training that for core stability right there. All right, next, got a couple that a lot of people forget about or don't know about, and these are very important to core stability and maintaining a healthy spine. First is diagonal. Okay, we want this diagonal stabilization pattern going from one side to the other. Okay, and we want that pattern not only in the anterior core, but also the posterior core. So we go from glute to opposite shoulder, so right that diagonal pattern right there, and then we go from shoulder down to opposite hip. Okay, so the diagonal pattern there. How do we train that? So to hit the anterior aspect, predominantly, we've got, I call it the 4-point opposite, also known as the bird dog. Okay, starting on all 4s, and you're going opposites here. And this is a good way to train anterior core. Another very option for anterior core and this diagonal pattern is the dead bug. Okay, so here we're firing up hip flexor and right up to opposite shoulder. Okay, so we're getting that diagonal core training there. On the flip side, for the posterior, we can go back to the hip bridge, but go into a 1-leg variation. So now we're focused on from one shoulder to the opposite hip. Okay, so that's training that diagonal core stabilization pattern on the posterior of your body, okay, on the back of your body. Another exercise, I don't have a stability ball handy with me, but it's the supine lateral ball roll, okay, where your arms are on T and you're stepping side to side. But you can look that up elsewhere, okay? So that's the diagonal core stabilization pattern, and that's super important for anybody involved in sports. Okay, so if you're throwing a punch, if you're hitting a baseball, okay, you're swinging a tennis racket, shooting in hockey, you need that diagonal core stabilization pattern. You need to train that with these basic exercises to bring it over to the functional movements of your sport or activity. Okay, so that's diagonal. Now the last one is one that I think is very important to point out and train because of modern day life and sitting and what that does on the body. Okay, so when we sit a lot, we're in this position, the hips are flexed. Okay, we often slouch the lumbar spine. So the hip flexors, they tend to shorten up and they tend to get weak. Okay, they get really, really weak. So we need to strengthen these guys up, but we want to strengthen them in a good neutral spine. Okay, if we're in this slouch position, that's not going to be beneficial to our low back health, and nor is it going to be beneficial for function, for sport, or the gym. So my favorite exercise to train this aspect, which I call hip flexion, okay, so it's core stability with hip flexion, is the front support. You get in the front support or the push-up position, and all you do is you flex one hip and you actively try to drive that knee up, but maintain neutral spine. Okay, so you could hold this for 10 seconds or so and do reps. So you drive it up, and I'm actively trying to fire up that hip flexor. Even though it's not moving anymore, I'm actively trying to work that muscle to strengthen, to continue to strengthen at that end range so that we don't lose range of motion through all the sitting that we do. Okay, because if we're in that position, we're not using it, we're just supported by the chair, we're just slouched there, that muscle is going to get weak, it's going to atrophy, and then we lose that range. Okay, so this is going to restore that lost range of motion that you may already have if you sit a lot. Okay, so those are the 5 ways to build core stability, and I showed you just very basic exercises. This is not a workout video, this is just a conceptual video so you can take a look at whatever your core training might look like right now and see, okay, am I missing any of these elements? Yes, throw them in there, okay? Or if I've got too much of one, most people have too much of anterior core training, okay, crunches, planks, all that kind of stuff. Maybe you need to balance it out about. Maybe you drop off the anterior completely for a while and just work on the other elements. Okay, so to review, you've got the anterior right here, you've got the lateral on the sides, you've got the posterior, the back, the glutes. We have diagonal patterns in the front, so hip to shoulder in the front and hip to shoulder in the back. And then we've got the hip flexed position or hip flexion in neutral, okay, which is very important if you sit a lot. So there you have it, the 5 ways to build core stability. Get the wheels turning a little bit, get you thinking about how to train for movement longevity and how to train in a balanced way so you're not setting yourself up for injuries from muscular imbalances or dysfunction in other ways. All right, so again, my name is Eric Wong. You can find me at precisionmovement.coach, and make sure you subscribe to the channel to not miss out on any more videos like this one to help you eliminate pain, heal and prevent injuries, and improve your mobility.